Thank you so much. Beth?
Hi, my name is Beth. My ex-husband and I, we got a divorce when our children were young. My daughter was an excellent student. She loved gymnastics and math and reading. She was also creative, sensitive, and sympathetic. At the end of 6th grade, my daughter suffered trauma and she became withdrawn. In 7th grade, she was placed in an honors class with other gifted students. Some of these students were trans-identified girls. This was 2018 when the teachers and counselors were being trained by the California Teachers Union on ways to support the LGBT and transgender students. In 8th grade, my daughter started seeing a private psychiatrist to help with anxiety and some pretty serious self-harming. At 13, my daughter came out in a letter to her father and me as transgender. Within a few days, we received an email from her school counselor saying our daughter had asked the school to change her name and pronouns. The counselor also put in place a gender support plan that was not disclosed to her father or to me. So when my daughter's 14, she began experiencing some dizziness spells. And so we took her to Kaiser Permanente Davis to meet with the pediatrician on duty. This is a pediatrician who had never seen our daughter before. My ex-husband, in the exam room, referred to my daughter with her new male name and male pronouns. And in an excited tone, the doctor asked my daughter if she would like to have her medical records changed to reflect her new name and her male pronouns. This is the first visit. The doctor then recommended that we take our daughter to the Kaiser Proud Clinic, a pediatric gender clinic in Oakland, where she could meet, it was a one-stop shop where she could meet with endocrinologists, an OBGYN, a gender specialist. So the next day I called this pediatrician and I said, you know, you had no right to suggest to my daughter that she seek medical interventions at a gender clinic when we were just there for a wellness visit. So I asked the doctor, what would you do with someone my daughter's age if she said she wanted to change into this opposite sex? And she said, well, we refer them to the Kaiser Roseville endocrinologist. So then I spoke to the endocrinologist and I asked him, you know, what would you recommend for someone my daughter's age who wanted to become a trans man? And he said they would go to the Kaiser's gender specialist and talk with them about puberty blockers and hormones. And when I said, could she talk, you know, would you talk with our private psychiatrist? He said, no, we prefer to keep all treatment within the Kaiser system. So when I voiced my concerns to the pediatrician and the endocrinologist about what was happening, the endocrinologist said, this is an emerging field. Quote, this is an emerging field, quote, we don't know the long-term medical effects, but with any medical treatments, there are benefits and there are risks. So I asked him what would the benefits be, and he said, quote, it's been shown that youths have a lower risk of suicide and less suicide ideation if they are offered medical treatment. He also said that, quote, youths will feel better when they're on hormones and that they can stop their periods and give them the physical traits of the opposite sex. And the endocrinologist, of course, referred me to WPATH as, you know, the leader in this field and to the Endocrine Society. And he also recommended I talk to Gender Spectrum, which is a, you know, one of these groups that encourages parents and families to transition their kids. Fortunately, my daughter's psychiatrist was willing to have a counseling session with my ex, my daughter and me in the same room, and she explained, because I asked her to, the risks of medicalizing with blockers and hormones. This includes brain development, delayed brain development and loss of bone density. So we agreed, this is when my daughter was 14, that she would not do anything medical until she was 18. So I realized later how fortunate we were that we were able to send my daughter to a private psychiatrist to seek DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, outside of Kaiser, and keep her away from the Kaiser Gender Clinic. My daughter desisted from her trans identity about 4 years later in her senior year of high school. She's now in her 3rd year of college and she's doing great. I just can't imagine what would have happened if, when my daughter was 14, if we had taken her to that Kaiser Proud Clinic in Oakland. You know, the doctors in Davis, the endocrinologists, they were all captured by this idea, and they were disingenuous when they were telling us that it would decrease her risk of suicide or suicide ideation.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Forrest?
Yeah, I just want to take a second and thank everybody. So I'm from a little bit of an older generation of transitioner, I think. Kind of sit right on the cusp. My transition was from 2015 to 2020. I'm also, I'm a male, and so one of the things that I think has been happening in our conversations about transgenderism in general is we kind of clump the men and the women together, but there's